he was one of the people that discussed the laws of Shemitah that we were learning about. And now we have another, so once the Gemara wants to group different teachings that were stated by this rabbi. So even though the teachings might be independent of each other, one subject has nothing to do with the other subject. But as you remember, the Gemara was originally not written down, and it was given to memory. And they would like to group when certain rabbis would say something, you would group the rabbi's teachings. This rabbi, these are statements that like you're on a roll, so to speak. So you remember this rabbi said A and B and C, and so now we're on another statement of Huda Marav. We are Gimel and Beis. We are in the second wide lines toward the bottom, about 5 lines from the bottom. Amar Huda Marav, haposeach beis hasavo b'Shabbat. If somebody opens up the neck on Shabbat, what does that mean? If you have a shirt, and let's say you're making a shirt from scratch, and what do you do when you make a shirt from scratch? You need to make a space. You need to make an opening for the head. Good morning, Nathan. Good to see you. Good to see you last night as well. Very good to see you. So the Gemaras are over here. And if you have a shirt, right? If you're a manufacturer of a shirt, how do you need to go ahead and make an opening in the material for the person to put his head through. Think about your polo shirt, your undershirt, right? Not your button down, I mean, even your button down shirt, also people make an opening on the top. But in order, you want to go ahead and open the shirt in order you can put your head through the shirt, right? In order else you can't use the shirt. So that's really the final stage of making the shirt into a shirt. And that's a malacha, doing the final stages of something, creating something. You created the utensil, you created this, you made this usable, you created something. And that's one of the things that you can't do on Shabbat. And it's a day of resting from creation, right? It's a day of rest. So if you go ahead and you take a material and you open it up and you make that hole in that shirt in order to be able to use that shirt, so that's a malacha. Paseach beit hatzava b'Shabbat chayiv chatat, and you're violating the prohibition of Shabbat. So that's the statement of Huda Marav. So maskif lo Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana, is everything clear, by the way? Is it clear? Dr. Navid, is it clear? So maskif lo Rav Kahana. So Rav Kahana has the following question on the law. You stated a law. Now I'm going to have a question on it. Akiva, you hear the point? On Shabbat, you can't make something into something that wasn't usable before. You created, now you're making it into something. You're creating something. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? Why is the neck of a shirt, why is the opening of a shirt different than opening of a barrel? They would take a little clay and they would seal a barrel in the old days, right? You have a barrel of wine. Here we are on Shushan Purim, discussing wine. You have a barrel of wine, and the barrel of wine, you want to make sure that nothing gets into the barrel, it remains pure wine. So what would they do? You had a lid on, you had a cover for the barrel, and you would seal the cover, but by putting some clay, call it some tit, and that clay would be like a glue of some sort to keep the barrel sealed. Then when you want to go ahead and open the barrel, so like it's similar to some of the things that we have today. Maybe some glue on certain. You have a cover on something, and then we seal the cover of a soda bottle. We seal the cover of some other types of food products, right? You had a cover, and now you want to keep it fresh, so you have a cover on it. And it says that the Brisa says in Shabbat that you could cut that seal of that keeps the barrel of wine sealed. So so why do we say, what's the difference between the seal on a barrel of wine that could be opened on Shabbat compared to the seal of the opening of the shirt. Opening the barrel of the wine. The barrel was sealed he's opening the seal. He should be opening the seal. I'm gonna have to look up that Gemara in Shabbat. It seems like he's opening up the seal on Shabbat, and we're allowing you to open the seal. You want to get to the wine on Shabbat, and you go ahead and you open it. So why do you allow him to go ahead and what did you say? Because again, you might want to, in fact, you want to do a mitzvah. Let's say you want to get dressed and be covered, and we're not going to say that they have a nice Shabbos shirt. And you want to, but for mitzvah, there's a mitzvah on Shabbos and Shabbat to wear Shabbat different clothing on Shabbat and weekday. The shirt you wear on Shabbat is not supposed to be the type of shirt you wear during the week. People have to be aware of that. It's supposed to be different. You're supposed to honor the Shabbat. So it's a mitzvah to wear not at the Shabbat shirt. I don't have any Shabbat shirt. And the only shirt I have is this. I'm a manufacturer of shirts. I have material. Can I go ahead and open up that shirt on Shabbat to try to open it? I can't, even though it's a mitzvah. So mitzvah it's not the trump card, if that's the right word. It doesn't always, you're right, Dr. Navid. Many times there are laws that the Rabbanan are lenient in certain cases of mitzvah. But this is a Torah issue. It's a biblical issue of violating the Torah, the laws of Shabbat on a Torah level. So they will not allow you to go and open the shirt in that way of cutting that hole to be able to put your head through the shirt. You're creating it. So what's the difference between you see it says one may lop off the top of the barrel below the place that the lid is connected to it, so that it cuts into the So the question is, what's the difference in opening up the barrel on Shabbat, which we allow you, and we don't allow you to opening up the shirt? So let's see what the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, Amalei. Now, by the way, yes, look at Gemara's answer. Amalei ze chibur v'ze eino chibur. The difference is the shirt is attached. It's attached in the way that it's sealed. The shirt is one piece of clothing. It's one item of clothing that's connected. All the materials are connected. And now, what do you have to do? You have to go. Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are on Gimel on the base, 3B, in the art scroll 3B4, on the top left corner, 3B4. The Gemara is addressing the following question. We have a statement that says that if you have material and you want to make a shirt usable and you have material and you didn't cut the hole to put your head through that shirt, in order to be able to put your head through the shirt, you're not allowed to cut that hole on Shabbat to create that hole in the shirt that you'll be able to put your head through, because then you're making it you're making it usable. It's not usable beforehand. You're creating, that's like the final blow, the Makkos patish. It's the final blow. You're creating something on Shabbat, and you're not allowed to make that item on Shabbat. And yet we say you can open up a barrel that's sealed with, if they have a barrel and they have a lid on top of the barrel, covering the barrel, and you sealed the lid, you put some sort of material to keep it closed, right? You put a little glue, so to speak. They would glue it with some like muddy type of, call it tit, like some sort of muddy type of material, some clay, whatever it was, to keep it closed. We say you could open that on Shabbat. So the Gemara says, how do you look at the shirt? The shirt is completely attached. It's one piece of material. And now you're creating something, total new thing. You're creating a new hole that was not there before. You're cutting out an opening in the shirt that was not, so therefore that would be forbidden. The lid is not, what you're doing here, the barrel, you're not creating, the barrel was usable as a barrel beforehand. When you had that lid, you had the cover of the barrel. The barrel was, the lid is independent of the barrel. The cover is separate from the barrel. The only thing is, what you did was you did something to temporarily keep them together. And therefore, you're not, but you're going ahead and cutting off the lid. You're just bringing it back to what it was a moment before you sealed it. It was made to be open, and it was
Rabbi,
separate. Yes.
it's the same concept. You're allowed to open, for example, a bag, okay, that there's no hole or anything if it's in contained food that you attend to eat. But if it's a bag with a shirt inside, you are not allowed to open it really in Shabbat.
What was your second case? You spoke about a bag, and what was the second thing you said?
It's also a bag, but this time they have a shirt inside.
Right.
So you're not allowed to open it on Shabbat.
Right. You can't create the opening of a shirt on Shabbat. So Yosef.
No, I'm saying even to open the bag, the same bag. One bag contains food, one bag contains a shirt. Okay, the same bag. You're not allowed to create an opening in the bag of the shirt, but you're allowed to create an opening of the bag of the food.
Okay, yeah, but we see, regarding the bag, let's look at the case of the bag, and let's look at this case. The bag, or first we're going to talk, let's say, about the soda bottles for a second, then we'll get to your case, Yosef. This could be the reason why the Sfardim, some Ashkenazim also, but Rav Moshe Feinstein was more strict on this opinion, but the Sfardim open up bottles on Shabbat, correct? The Sfardim open bottles, a soda bottle on Shabbat, the Hasidim open soda bottles on Shabbat, and some other Ashkenazim, in the Ashkenaz world, there's difference of opinion. They most probably hold exactly like the barrel story. The bottle was open before. This is the bottle cap is like the lid, like they have a lid on a barrel. It's meant to be open. It was the barrel was usable beforehand. It was a barrel. The bottle was a bottle before bottle was a bottle before you opened it up. It was already usable as a bottle. And therefore, since it was usable as a bottle, now you just had this temporary seal that you put on the bottle. And now you're just removing the seal. So it's not called you're making something new. And that might be, by the way, there's room to make a very big difference. Some will make a difference in opening a soda bottle and a can. A can was not opened before, right? The opening of a can. You see the difference between a can, let's say a Budweiser can. I don't know if they have such things as Budweiser cans. They have or certain other the typical Coke, the typical 12-ounce soda can. The 12-ounce soda can, that hole was not there before. That could be d'oraita. That could be a biblical prohibition. If you compare that soda can to opening up a shirt, opening up the hole of a shirt, and making it usable. That was never usable. The can was not yet ever usable. It's true. It's designed to be open. That's true. So whether that will make it different, but it's totally attached. It's totally one piece. It's one piece of metal, right? The only thing is you can say about the soda can that the can beforehand it was a can open. How did they get the soda in the can? So it was used. Right, you're making you're saying it's a new opening. It's true, but the fact that there was soda in the can before the can was usable as a can beforehand. Now they just they just sealed it. They however they made. What did they? But was it usable? I'm saying the question is, how did they got the soda into the can? I'm saying the point is, before they sealed it, what did it look like before they sealed it? Before they closed it, there was something of can that contained liquid in it. So maybe perhaps that could be a logic why it might not be a problem. Meaning because it was usable as a can, it was made and it's made to open, and it was already a can. It was made as a can, usable as a can, except they somehow have this technology of somehow sealing it in such a way that it looks like it was never open, it was never separate. So that might be the logic why them, if people are lenient on soda cans, again, they have to ask their Rav, their posek, they have to research it. Then that might be the logic. That could be an allowance. I'm not. I'm a student from Rabbi Feinstein's. Rabbi David Feinstein's the son of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. We don't open even bottles. We would definitely not open cans. We don't even open. We open all our bottles before Shabbat. All our soda bottles are open before Shabbat. But that is that could be the difference between. You just open it up and then we close. Right, break the seal. Now it's ready. Everything is ready to roll. Now you just tighten it. So that addresses a little bit about the soda bottles and again, in the Svardim, like I said, the Svardim will look at the soda bottle cap. Now, if you can see, you can make a distinction. You can see even if the Svardim will say that a soda bottle cap is considered two separate things. It's not considered attached, even though they're glued together. They might, you have to see, they might be more strict on the soda cans. You have to ask the post-skim by the Svardim, are they more strict by soda cans, by cans than by bottles? To address Yosef's issue, so the question is if you have a bag, you see, some are more lenient by bags, potato chip bags, these type of bags that you mentioned earlier, because these bags are not meant to. So what some people do is they open the bag. We personally open up potato chips, all that stuff before Shabbat. Those bags, we also open before Shabbat. There are those that are lenient. What they do? What'd you say? Oh. There are those that what they do is that they open up the potato chip bag and they remove the contents of the bag. That means on Shabbat they want, because the bag is not made to be used. A paper bag, these type of plastic bags are not real bags, so to speak. It's not like a real bag of a sack of something that's made to be used as a container to hold an item. These bags are temporary and made to be one-time use type of things, and they're thrown in the garbage. So some say that you're not really making it into a utensil. You're not making it into, let's say when you open up the shirt and you're making the whole of the shirt, you're making it into a utensil that is usable. But the opening of the bag of the potato chips, so being that you're throwing it out afterwards, so some will say that just what they would do is they would open up the bag. Some will just empty out empty out the contents, so throw the bag in the garbage, and therefore, on Shabbat. Okay, but again, a Coca-Cola. Okay, a bottle is more get the hole to contain. A Coca-Cola can is also, it's a more permanent, made out of steel. It might be a more. Yeah, okay, but it still could be that it's more of, but has the ability. It's made more to be more. It's more of a reusable type of thing. What other people do is on Shabbat, if they didn't open the bag of potato chips before Shabbat, some will just cut open the whole bag just to ruin it, not to make it into something useful. They would just open, instead of opening it in the normal way and emptying out the contents. That's what some people might do, and then use it. Others would just cut open, not be careful not to cut by the words. It would just ruin the bag. So they're not making the bag into a what? Into a utensil, into a usable item. Because the issue here is, am I making something? Am I creating something? So if I go ahead and I create something, I am violating the Shabbat by creating something. So if I create something that's usable, that will be the issue. But if I cut open the bag and I just knock out and I throw the bag in the garbage, therefore I did not make something usable. So that's
even if your intention is not always like a tea bag, okay?
just
But
still.
you're scared about going over the word that's sprung, you know? Aren't we like really blowing this out of proportion, like same idea with the arch of their house. Like, for example, I bought a it's like, this is a, by the Torah, is supposed to be at the gates of your doors, not arches around the house. And same thing here, like when you're opening up a tea bag, the idea is to get to the tea bag. You have no intention of erasing the words.
Right, but,
You know,
but it's still, you should be
or
careful.
like you're opening up a bag of chips, it's like, this is.
So you should be careful. Yeah, well, maybe we have to learn more about that halacha, the halacha stuff on Shabbat. That's the Gemara Shabbat. But you should try hard to avoid, because one of the malachos on Shabbat is erasing. Again, what's that? Erasing on the condition to write is the malacha.
Right.
Meaning only when you do an act that's productive. So technically, ripping a word that has it's not a productive act. It should not be an issue of a biblical issue. Destroying writing by it should be the rabbinic, and then you're in the rabbinic area and you try the best to avoid doing such a thing. Obviously we don't violate rabbinic prohibitions, so but that's why it's a little bit more room to work with, again, but you try to, you don't intend to rip those letters. So that's a little bit about these are some of the questions then on Shabbat about creating things, so people should be aware of these things. So that's the distinction that he makes, is the barrel is not considered that's really attached, because really the lid is independent of the barrel. So I was with Rabbi Feinstein's son-in-law this morning on the way here, and he said that Rabbi Feinstein, Moshe Feinstein, looked at the ceiling of a soda bottle with the soda cap, that it's really a strong. He looked at it like it's one item. He didn't look at it that once it's attached, in the way that it's attached, it's not considered. It's like he compared it more to this shirt, and therefore he was very concerned on a very, maybe even a biblical issue of you really creating something. It's not like this. He doesn't look at it like two separate items, like the lid. This is the cover. They looked at it more that it's more like one. But there's a whole response, a letter that Moshe Feinstein wrote on the subject of open bottles in the Sefer Igrot Moshe. Okay, so that's a little bit about that, and we should think about this on Shabbat when we open things. Or if we're creating something, if we're making something usable, right? That's the thing. Remember, the issue here: you're creating something. You're creating the shirt that now you can use the shirt. The opening is being a tikkun. It's creating something, fixing something, right? That's the issue. So according to that, a lot of times if you open things that you're not making something with the thing is just going into the garbage, right? That's why, like I said, if you open up a bag of potato chips, you throw out the bag, or like the way we're saying, and you throw out the bag, you empty the contents, so you just cut open the bag. You didn't create something. You didn't create something that's usable. You destroyed something, right? Mr. Safdie, any comments on what we said? Okay. Now, Ms. Jaime, is it clear any questions on the points that we're saying here?
I think it's clear. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Now we have another statement of Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav. Shloshet lugin mayim. If you have 3 lug of water. Now let's give a little introduction into what's going on over here. A mikveh, if there's 2 ways there's one way you have a mikveh is you make a hole in the ground, and there's rainwater that collects, that goes into the hole, and it needs to be water that's stationary, that's not flowing. There's no holes in the ground in that area. It's just it's sealed strongly. The ground and the collection of water need a certain amount of water, 40 sa. to be a kosher mikvah. You'll see they do excavations near the Temple Mount area or whatever, in the old city. There's a lot, they're finding a lot of old mikvahot. They find a lot of holes in the ground, places where they had mikvahot. Now, there's a law that says that the water cannot be mayim shuvim. A mikvah that's made from water that you drew the water, that you went ahead and you poured the water into the mikvah. You can't have a mikvah made from such type of water. The water has to go naturally into this collection, into this pit, so to speak, this collection of water. Now, if you have a mikvah, if you have a mikvah that has if a small amount of the water is mayim shuvim, if you have a mikvah that you're creating a mikvah, we're manufacturing a mikvah, okay, we're building a new mikvah. So if the rabbi said that even if the whole thing is not drawn water, but let's say 3 lugim, a certain amount of the water, it's not such a large amount, it's a lug. If you think about it, a revi'it on Shabbat, when you have a cup of wine, a Friday night, Shabbat day, the cup of wine that you say kiddush needs to contain a certain amount of wine in order for you can't just have 1 ounce of wine cup that contains 1 ounce. You have to have a revi'it. A revi'it is around 3 ounces, between 3 and 4.5 ounces is a revi'it. A revi'it is a quarter of a lug. So so it's 25%. So let's say if we'll say revi'it is around 3 ounces or so, so that's a quarter of 12 ounces. So therefore, 3 lugim is 36 ounces. So if you have 36 ounces, which is not such a small amount of liquid, it's like a liter, it's about a little over a liter of liquid. If you have a liter of liquid, let's say, that was poured into the mikveh, if it was poured into the mikveh in the building of, while they're creating the mikveh, when they're beginning the mikveh, when they're in the building process, when they're trying to fill up the mikveh for the first time, if around a liter of water that was drawn by hand is poured into that would invalidate the mikveh. The rabbis were concerned that you shouldn't think that you could make a regular bath as a mikveh, and they created this. They said that therefore, if you have same way a bath is created by you pour the water in to create a bath. They were afraid if you're going to use this type of thing, if you would allow this, and people actually will allow a bath as a mikveh. The Chafetz Chaim said that in Europe, people were already starting to use a bath as a mikveh. It was a terrible thing that the women did not realize that you can't use a bath as a mikveh. There are laws in proper mikveh, what kind of thing is kosher for a mikveh, and they were using a bath. And he wrote a sefer called Taharat Yisrael. Chafetz Chaim wrote a sefer on mikveh, on the laws of mikveh. He addressed the issues of the time. And here the rabbi said, if you pour this amount, 3 lugim of water into this hole in the creation of the mikveh, that will if you do that within the filling up of the first 40 sa'ah, that will invalidate the mikveh. I have to look up exactly how much is this. What? It's a certain amount of water, certain amount of measurement. Now, that's what the rabbi said.
Rabbi,
So,
one question. Rabbi,
yes.
1 second. I'm assuming this was all recorded before plumbing existed.
Yes, all before plumbing, exactly.
So it cites naturally collected rainwater as the
Correct.
source. But if you imagine rainwater being collected, it has to be channeled And that's almost like plumbing also. In other words, the way rainwater is channeled into the mikveh, it's got to go through some kind of pipe or drain or something to collect it, correct?
Okay, so the people who make a mikveh, that's why making a mikveh is not a simple task. Because if you think about it, in the old days, Jaime, just dig it. It would seem to me you dig a hole in the ground, and then you wait for a nice rain to come. And you don't need to channel anything. You just need to let you're waiting for a good rain, and you have the good rain, a strong rain, it fills up the pit, and now you got it. You know, you dig an area that will be a large enough area to collect the
Right,
40
that would be
stuff.
sky though. That would be open to the sky.
Exactly. So that's what in general, that's what most of the mikvot that they're digging up in the past are those type of mikvot. If you think about, those are the mikvot that they're finding near. Good to see you, Isaac. Those are the mikvot that they're finding near in the old city, near the. They're all open. They didn't have those. I don't. What they would do is obviously for modesty purposes, they would put something around the area to people shouldn't.
Right. And open to the sky.
But open to the sky, exactly.
Okay, but today modern mikvaot are nothing like that. They have to be collected through a drain.
Right. So what happens is the following. To answer your question, Jaime, is the following. Once the mikvah it was made kosher, once you have the 40 sa'ah, once it was done according to these technical laws, that has to be collected naturally, as you said, then you could pour in as much water as you want.
What about plumbing?
So plumbing, because there are certain things, I'm not familiar with all the laws of mikveh, so I can't really answer that question properly. But because you can't, the water, I'm not sure exactly, but the main issue is the making of the mikveh, the beginning. The making of the mikveh in the beginning, you can't use utensils, that the water can't be going through things that are welcome back, good morning. They can't be going through the normal piping, normal type of things. There are issues in making the mikveh. But once the mikveh is kosher, that's how they're filling up. There's no problem to pour more water into the kosher mikveh. So we say that once it's kosher, then you could go ahead and pour water into the mikveh. Right. We don't say that. We don't say that if, even though it's such a small amount of water, it should become batel, it should become nullified. We say it only if it's within the first 40 sa'ah. But once you already have the kosher mikveh, and that's what's happening today. They're not the beginning. The most important part, it would be the beginning. Again, I'm not familiar with all the other halachas also how today, if they're adding, but they're what the halachas are in adding the water in that. But the basic halacha today is that once it's a kosher mikveh, it's not a problem to. I'm going to try maybe this week. Rabbi Feinstein's the new Rosh Yeshiva of Moshe Feinstein's yeshiva, Rabbi Feinstein's son, Rabbi Beryl Feinstein, he's involved in the mikveh. So I could speak to him. Maybe I'll speak to him more about. Get a little bit more about the mikveh. I have here in the. Let's see. I have here in the introduction to this Gemara, they bring down the following idea. They said once the 40 sa'ah was filled with proper collection, natural collection of rainwater, now the drawn water that you pour in would not invalidate it at all. Even if there's more drawn water than the original water. Have a great day. Even the Shabbat Shalom. Even though, but once it was we say the ruling is, then we say batel, that all the water that comes in becomes nullified by the original 40 sa'ah. So even if the amount of water that comes in is more at the end, if you do your math, and it comes out to be more water that you added, but each drop or every ounce of water that you're adding becomes nullified by the previous water that was there. So that's a little bit about the mayim shuvim. Good morning. So now the Gemara is going to talk about the following story that you had. Now, what about if you have water? If you have, let's say we said there's 3 lugim of water. We said this, we'll call it 3 lug, about a liter of water. If it was drawn, right, you did not, it wasn't naturally collected. You poured it into this pit while you're digging, while you're creating the mikveh to make it a mikveh from the get-go. If let's say there was 3 lugim of water, that would, we say, invalidate the mikveh. Is that correct, Nathan? If it's 3 lugim of water will invalidate, of drawn water, not naturally collected water, will invalidate the creation of that mikveh. Mr. Safdie, is that correct? But what about if you added wine to the mikveh? If you throw in wine to the mikveh in the creation, would wine invalidate the mikveh? No. If it's drawn water, will invalidate the mikveh, but not wine. If you throw wine into the mikveh, it won't work. But if you throw in, what about if you throw enough wine into the mikveh that will change the color of the mikveh? See, now, then we're going to see that that's going to be a problem. That will be, if the color is not if you threw in a different type of item that will change the color of the mikveh, that will invalidate the mikveh. We're going to see that in the Gemara. And then the next thing we're going to see in the Gemara is, what about if I put wine into these 3 lugim of water? Before I put the water into the mikveh, do we say that if these 3 lugim, if their color changed as a result of wine mixing into these 3 lugim, does that make this water no longer, we don't classify that as water anymore? And therefore, if I change, I throw it into the mikveh, it will not invalidate the mikveh? Or even though it was colored with red, and now it's the color of wine, but since it was 3 lugim, so the color change will not make it good, and it'll still be prohibited to use. So that's what we're going to see in the Gemara, more about how the effect of the color on the water, would it make it kosher? Would it prep it for it or not? We'll see more on Monday about this. Sunday will be on the phone. We'll probably around 10:30 on the phone, and Monday we will be back in the Gemara inside. Have a great Shabbat, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Thank you. Medicine. The one that did not make the risk usable. When you break it open, if you make that hole that you created, it's not usable. That's not a problem. But you didn't create something to be morning. By the way, did I tell you, you look at the bridge, you up there holding the baby? Yeah. It's a great picture, great set. Everybody said it was terrifying. I don't know. You look smiling. I don't know. You looked all right.